you know, the proponents of this question too are saying that somehow that this is not a bad thing because in communities where it's been made a civil offense, that they haven't seen increased drug use. I'm not convinced that those numbers are correct, but even if they were, that's not what's troubling to us. What's troubling to us is that we're not able to get drug use reduced, and that's what we should be working toward. Not worrying about whether that's going to increase. It's already at alarming rates, with 80% of our populations in prison as a result of drug-related issues. But secondly, this whole issue of concern over the Corey reports and that somebody's going to have it on their record. Look, what's next? Shoplifting. You know, the economy's going south. Families are struggling. If we start to see a rise in theft in our country, are we going to start to say then, well, you know, it's difficult times and people are having a rough time and they were just trying to survive. So therefore, if they get arrested for something like that, well, we ought not to include that on their record either. Look, if I'm an employer, somebody's got something on their record with regards to marijuana use, have been arrested, whether they've done time or not, every employer has a right to know that. I don't think anyone can argue the point that voting yes on question 2 is going to help our children.
As I said, there's so many reasons to be opposed to question 2. The one that I want to talk about right now, and then from what I understand we're going to get into kind of a give and take of a question and answer, is I think the most powerful reason is the message that it would send out to our young people. I'm talking about to our young teenagers to young adults. Because unfortunately, regrettably, sadly in this country, kids begin to get exposed to marijuana with respect to some people in the schools that are doing it. They hear about kids doing it probably when they're about 13 years old, 13, 14 years old. The question that parents have to ask themselves is this: do you want to see more marijuana smoking among young people, or do you want to see less? And if the answer is you want to see less, then you have to vote against question 2, because it's definitely, in my opinion, I agree with my friend the sheriff, it's definitely going to lead to increased use. I absolutely dispute those who say that it hasn't led to increased use in those states that have decriminalized. It certainly hasn't led to reduced use, which is the sheriff's great point. So that, I think, is the most powerful reason, is the message that it would be sending to young people. And I think the most powerful question is, do you want to see more smoking or less smoking? If you want to see less smoking, then vote against question 2.
I'm not really qualified to speak on the question itself. Whether it would be a good idea to decriminalize it. I'm sure that it'll lessen the court dockets if they decriminalize it, but what it'll do is certainly add to the addiction that runs rampant in our streets today. I know I started with marijuana, and almost everyone that I know started smoking marijuana. I'm going to be 50 soon, so started smoking in the 70s, in the very late 70s, when it was, almost socially accepted, almost pushed upon us, by society. Everything was cool and open and everything. We just didn't have all the information about addiction that we do now. I know that from experience, every relapse that I've ever had into the stronger stuff that I've used, into the cocaine, into the heroin, every single relapse that I've ever had started when I started smoking weed again. It lowers your inhibitions. It just makes everything okay, and it is exactly what they call it. It's a gateway drug. But what it does is, to those of us who do have an addictive nature, an addictive personality, it immediately releases that addictive personality, that addictive nature that some of us have. And those are the high majority of us that go on to use other drugs. It wasn't very long before I was out using again. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm allergic to drugs. I break out in handcuffs every single time.
What do you think about folks who say, well, I use it recreationally, and this question 2 is really not a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of people who I know a lot of people who use it recreationally, those kinds of things. Do you think that any of this stuff can be used recreationally? By some people, probably. Well, I think what you're saying is, by some people, maybe it can.
Well, I mean, that's a crapshoot. I mean, if you use and find that you don't have an addictive personality, God bless. But if you use and it releases your addictive personality, then well, I can tell you that the road that you'll be traveling down was paved by people like me. and you're gonna wind up, you're gonna wind up just continuing to use. You lose your inhibitions, you lose a motivation to strive for better things. You tell them you're pretty much telling them what they want to hear. That it's okay. That adults don't know what they're talking about. That you turn them into rebels without causes, and you turn them into allies.
Getting back to this question too, your life experience at least tells you that this is a red flag thing?
At the very least, and I want to choose my words carefully here because again, I'm not qualified to to talk about what should be legislate law or not. But at the very least, I know that an abundance of marijuana will lead to an abundance of addiction.